Okay, so now let's see how to create the multi-level list. By this time, we're going to be using a different variation. Now remember, we need to first of all make sure that our sections are properly created. Our heading sections are properly created using these styles. So I have heading 1, heading 2. I am not going to modify this because that is relatively simple. So what we are going to do, we simply come here where we have the multi-level list. Click on define a new multi-level list. When you get here, now remember, I want to make sure that the very first one, chapter 1, has a 1. So 1, then the name of the chapter. But of course, I don't need this word chapter 1. It's just that I'm using it here to mark where those sections start from. So what I'm going to do is I am going to make sure that this particular area has a 1, so it has a 1 here, and this next section, which would be 1.1, is going to have A. Then the next one is going to have B. Then this inward section is going to have something like 1 in brackets or 2 in brackets. So that's how I want to set this up. So I'll make sure this is tied to heading 1. Then when you click on heading 2, I am going to use, let me first of all remove that. I'm going to make sure it is tied to level 1, but of course I don't need that here. So I'll remove that. And I am going to use A. So when you look at this, you see that it's actually tied, it's having A, then the name of the section. So in this case, it will be A, then background. This part, I may not need it, so I'll remove it, but it will have A, then background. So that is fine. What I do next is I am going to make sure that it is tied to heading 2, like we see here. It's tied to heading 2. And that is okay, because when I look at it here, I see it's okay. I can add a point. I can add a point. Now, this is the previous section to see that your thing actually works well. Then I go to 3. Again, let me first remove this. So at 3, I want to make sure this is also tied to heading 3. Normally, when you open up this new multi-level list, you might find it like this. So to see all these options here, you have to click on more. So that's why you will be able to see this here. So heading 3 is there. Now, I want to use something like that. 1, but should have a bracket. Should have a bracket. Now, how do you know that this numbering style is going to be dynamic? When you see that gray outline, when you see that gray outline, see this gray outline in the number. When I put another number like that, it doesn't have this gray outline. So that gray outline means you're actually getting it right. So I'm going to put another bracket here to make sure it reflects what I want. Like you can see there, I can also put a point. Can also put a point to make sure that it's well aligned. Now, sometimes you might want to adjust the space, this space after the numbering. You can always come here, follow number with space or nothing, depending on your liking. But now, to me, this is okay. So I'm going to click OK, and I go back to my document. So now, this is going to be a heading 2, and this is going to be a heading 1. And this is also a heading 2. And this is going to be my heading 3 there. Now you realize that there's a lot of space here. You realize there's a lot of space here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to define new multi-level list. Now, whenever you come back to make changes, please note that here, sometimes when you make these changes, they might only go to the selected area. So what you do is make sure you select whole list. Make sure you select whole list because you want all the changes to apply. So whenever you come back to modify a list, make sure the changes apply to all parts. So now, when you see that there's a lot of space, you might have to play around with this to see what works best. Sometimes you do space, sometimes you do nothing. Let me just do the space and see what happens. When I click OK, make sure the changes you are going to make apply to the whole list. Then I click OK. Now, when I realize that it doesn't work, I might have to either, let me first try and see if I add more options here, more options, and I make this heading 3. You see now this time it has worked, which means there was a problem with this particular one. I'm going to change it there. So I can add more, and more. Again, this is heading 3, and that works well. So this is all about chapter 1. This is also heading 2. And this is a new chapter. This is heading 1. All these under here, heading 2. I can add more items here, and these items are going to be heading 3. And I can also add more items. And this item here is also going to be heading 3. This is a new chapter, heading 1. Everything under this is heading 2. This is a new chapter, heading 1. Everything under here is heading 2. This is, and so on and so forth. So you can just come in here and add more items, and this can be your heading 3. More items, more items, more items. This can be heading 3. And that is how you can go about it. Now, whenever you feel like the settings are not okay, just come back here, define a new multi-level list. Make sure the changes you're going to make apply to the whole list, because if you do not, if you leave it at current selection, something like that, the changes won't apply to the whole list. So here you can make modifications. Sometimes you might want to, maybe for you want to use Romans instead of the actual numbers. What you do, you come here, choose a Roman, then you put this in brackets, and you click OK. Make sure it's applied to the whole list. And then you'll see that everything actually works like you expect. If you want to change this from lowercase, again, you come back here, define new multi-level list. Make sure you are on 2 here. That's what you want to change. I remove the A and make sure I am selecting uppercase A. I also put a full stop. Make sure this is applying to the whole list and it's tied to heading 2. Then when I click OK, everything reflects within the document. But of course, you have to, before you begin this process, make sure the heading sections are as per what you actually like. You can always come back to modify that.